Kilted balls. Did we ruin you?
Something caught in my throat. Something caught in my throat. Well, I started and I was super excited because we're doing this differently that I couldn't decide if I needed to do it at the same time or if I needed to do it a couple seconds early like normal.
Oh my gosh, that's super funny. Hopefully it records better than normal. Welcome back, people, to the Kilted Balls podcast. We're so glad to have you back around. Woo!
Yes.
And you'll notice Kilted and I have switched positions. So we are trying a new format here than we've tried in the past so that we can do questions or callers if people want to like pester us. So now we have that ability.
That sounds awesome.
So we kind of upgraded. Yeah, so we'll see how that goes.
So does it look different on your screen?
You and I are switched spots on my screen.
Okay, you said that earlier, but you look exactly the same to me. You're still on top.
Nice. I like being on top. And if you've ever watched the YouTubes, you and I are...
I have. We are side by side.
I am always on your right, and you are on the left. And in this case, we are the opposite.
Uh-oh.
So totally different spot. We have switched spots, and I don't actually know like how to drag us to other positions. I used to know. Sorry, people, you're seeing me click all around. But yeah, so this is, we're hoping a better way. We can stream live while we're doing it. We can take calls while we're doing it. We're hoping. I think I can do things like make noises like ducks, right? So I think you guys can see stuff like that we're doing.
Oh, did it make noises?
Yeah, it made noises. You can't hear
before I could hear the ducks. I did not hear the ducks this time.
The part that's weird is it like covers up my face, which is maybe a good thing.
I just got the duck that time.
Oh, you did? I didn't.
Maybe
do
it's
that
delayed.
Time. Here's the horn.
Oh, that was instant.
Okay, crickets.
Oh, that's instant.
Yeah.
I like the crickets. That used to be my ringer.
So we can do all sorts of things. But the sad thing is I want these like in a toolbar so I can click them and just have it go, not bring up a thing and cover up my face while we're doing it.
Yeah, we'll have to figure that out. This is the not a first time we've tried it on Discord because I'm pretty sure we did it before, but it was early on and we were trying a lot of different things.
Oh my gosh, and it took us people so long to get this going, mainly because I'm an idiot. But I was an idiot in like 10 different ways, and we finally got it fixed. And it seriously took me, like an hour and a half, 2 hours to get this thing
You got it fixed. Let's be clear. I was sitting here, I'm playing on my computer, I'm looking around at stuff. Brian was doing all the fixing.
I was doing the
fixing. But he made the mistake, to be extra clear.
That's true. I'm just happy to be on my desktop again. I've been on my laptop so often. It's been sad. So, yeah. Woo! I'm so pumped, people. So glad we got it running, and so glad that you guys can now interact with us. So please feel like you can. Also, people, I'm working on a project, and one of the things I've decided about my project, I cleared the halfway point-ish. I don't know if it's really
nice.
I don't know if it's really the halfway point. Because, sometimes you're doing stuff and you're like, ooh, I'm halfway there. And then you're like, and the next part took 3 years.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It could be one of those things. But because I'm at the halfway point, I started thinking about things. And what I decided is if I get my project finished, all of our like main listeners right now, our top 10 or whatever, I'm going to give them access to my project like right off the bat. So,
that's awesome.
Right? So, if I reach out to you, listeners, or you hear us in an episode and I'm like, hey, send me your address. That's because I'm going to like include you on the project and I want you to like physically be included. So
nice. Now, I don't listen as much as some of our listeners do. Now, do I just get on a list and I'm randomly drawn and maybe I can be part of it?
So I made sure you were part of it from the get-go.
Oh, good.
So, like there were some people who I'm like, oh yeah, these people like I know and I'll be able to take care of. But then there's people like our buddy Jason who in my brain is a gypsy and has no address. So I'm like, well, I'm gonna need.
He actually has an address now.
He does have an address now. I don't know if I believe it, but I've heard it.
I would say you want to get down to Florida before he actually comes up to Michigan. You would love it.
Do you think? Wait, did you say I would love Florida? Because I've been to Florida.
No, his place. His place is fun.
Oh,
okay. It's set up for guests. It's a really good setup for guests.
Oh, okay. Well, I
much better than my place is set up for guests.
But I think
so. Jesse's going to be here this weekend.
I think we have just crossed over in Florida terms to being, yeah, I'm not heading there. Like my house hit 74 today, and I was like, "Whoa, it's so hot in here." Like we may have to turn on the air.
Tristan came in. He's like, "Oh my gosh, it's so hot!" And it's funny because the thermostat in the living room is the thermostat for the warehouse. And then the thermostat for the AC area is actually in our bedroom behind the TV. You can't really see it. But when you set it, like I can look at it on my phone because the camera's way up here, and so I can see what's going on. But I'm like, Tristan, it's only 80 out in the warehouse. It was only 80. So
see,
in the living area, I'm like, it's a lot less than that here. But he keeps his little room extra cold. Like I think he has the air set at 65, which is super irritating.
So he can set the air separately in his room.
He has like a window unit in his room.
Oh man,
that was built in. I would never have put anything like that in there, but
you'd have been like, "You're living in this happy."
Here's an Escalade fan, so you can appreciate it when it's blowing on you.
That's right. You can enjoy life. You know what it is to live the good life with a fan. Seriously, we talk about that a lot. How, like, I really feel like I almost can't live without air, and we grew up without air.
I remember you used to get excited because your girlfriend had air and you wanted to go over there, and I hated it. It was so freaking cold.
And seriously, like, remember my house? All it had was one big monster fan. Remember, like a window unit, and it was like a plane and a jet engine, and like it was old school. Like you could put your fingers in it, and it was like steel. We used to put rulers in it and have it like shredded. It was like a blender.
I took down the big fans out of a couple big fans in the warehouse area, and I moved them into the office area. Because like in the morning, I'll open the door and just turn on the fan. It pulls in the cold air and then blows in. So that's hilarious. Yeah, those steel fans are super awesome.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that was back in the day. But when we went to Europe a few summers ago, like there's no air in Europe. And you didn't even like really notice because that's just how things were. So it's interesting. We tease you Southerners about getting wussified because you can't handle the cold. But we're for sure wussified where we can't handle the heat.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody. I mean, mainly that's a us problem.
Yeah, it's a broad stroke. Although it's funny talking today because we obviously we're friends and we chat when we're not on here as well.
It's true.
And we were talking about a Michigan trip, and you know our friend Jason won't be able to do it this summer. But I was telling Gina today, I'm like, I might want to work in a Michigan trip, like hitting Tequamanon, hitting Mackinac Island, like doing some of the cool stuff. Maybe not everything, but
we could hit a whole bunch. That's interesting because I was just thinking, I was like, if I don't go to Origins this year, maybe I should just head straight down to NC. And then you're like, Jesse's coming down, and I'm like, what do I have this weekend?
I have an extra ticket available. So come on down. Be the three of us going to the soccer game.
I mean, like, really, what trouble could we get into? We're old now.
We're old now.
We're old. What trouble could we get into? None.
It'd be super fun. So I was talking about the heat. So our friend Jesse does not love the heat.
Right.
He's a bigger guy, bigger than us, and he likes his air. So it's going to be interesting when he's here because I don't have a guest bedroom here. I mean, I have tons of places where people can sleep if you don't mind a little warm. So
I mean, you got sheets for days. Sheets.
He doesn't catch every episode, but he may be sleeping. He may be sleeping in the bunk bed. I'm guessing that's real pick because that's going to be the coolest spot.
Oh my goodness! I'm sleeping in Tristan's room. So.
Oh, okay, yeah, he won't care.
No, because I'll throw his ass out. Tristan, you thought this was your room. You can either sleep with me and cuddle, or I'm just throwing your ass out. You can go stay with your girlfriends.
There you go. There you go.
You can cuddle with either one of us. I don't care which.
That would be amazing. You should sneak down. Jesse gets in late Friday. His plane lands, and then he's leaving late Monday.
What are you drinking right now?
Some wine.
Oh, it's a fancy cup. Fancy cup.
Well, it's my Batman cup that's been at the desk. Nice. So here's what I wanted.
Origins. It's starting to wear off.
Oh, there you go. Oh, your cup's wearing off.
I was drinking Dr. Pepper and Jameson, but it's the new summer flavored Dr. Pepper, which is like coconut Dr. Pepper.
Yes, I imagine that would be good. We were talking about that. Mm-hmm. So I like to listen to classic rock.
Yes.
On the radio. And I have a variety, so Gina and the kids are happy. I'll flip through because I don't like commercials. But George Thorogood comes on. And so I was like, I would love to have this because it was one scotch, one bourbon, one beer.
Yes.
And I go and look, and I only have bourbon in the house. So I don't have any scotch or any beer.
So I almost made an error.
I went to wine.
I think with our new setup, I think I can actually play like audio and stuff too.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if you could hear it, but I was like, ooh, I'm going to play that. Like as you're talking about it, I'm going to play it. And then I was like, and then I'm going to get copyright infringement.
You have so many seconds that you can do.
Do you?
Yeah, I think you have like 5 seconds or 10 seconds before it's copyright.
Is that
could be
true?
Wrong.
Does anybody know? Is it true? Like, what if I do this? Hopefully this doesn't appear on that screen. It appears on this one. Yeah, it is. So, I think
this is I can't hear it.
Yeah, so you can't hear this.
Aww.
This is like a sample of a sample.
Yeah, I can't hear it. I'll have to listen to this episode.
Nice.
But
it was just the two of us. Because I think about that a lot when we're recording. That it's just the two of us.
That's awesome.
Heck yeah.
But yeah, so I crack open. So it'll be some for tonight and some for tomorrow.
Nice.
Because wine, I don't love it. I mean, it's very good. I like, especially from going to Wine Text, Gary's dad's stuff. I've gotten a lot of really good wines, so I'm just like, just crack it open.
Heck yeah! I opened
as long as I spread it over a couple days.
Amy was telling me the wine I found the other day was like years and years old. I'm like, I don't think it is, and we got it, and even my daughter had some, and we finished a whole bottle that night because Amy had a glass, I had a few glasses, my daughter had a glass. It was a cherry wine from up in TC, which obviously makes like the best cherry wine ever. So it was good. It was good.
That sounds super awesome.
So we promised our listeners on Twitter, and I have another computer here too, people, so I don't make a mistake on that one. But we promised them today we would talk about aliens and take their phone calls. So I don't think we're going to get any. I don't think we're going to get any phone calls today, because like that's.
Well, just so if anyone wants to call in, we usually start recording at 8:30 on Tuesdays.
Eastern Standard Time.
Yes, Eastern Standard Time. And like Ball said earlier, we are recording later today, so we may not. Who knows? Well, but you did. I saw you posted it on Discord.
We can probably figure out a way to do a Twitter space with this streaming to there, or stream it to our YouTube.
Yeah.
But
that's a good idea.
You can always leave comments on our Twitter, and we'll see them and answer them while we are on the show, people. So you can definitely hit us up on Twitter. Join our Discord. Right, it's on our YouTube station. I think it's on our Twitter. I'll put another link to it on there. But you join our Discord, and you can pester us with questions all the time, and we'll answer them when we're going live. But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, people wanted.
So what was was it a specific alien or go ahead?
Not at all. It was just like talk about aliens, and I thought, oh my gosh, you've been listening to a guy that for some reason in my brain I associate with aliens. And
That's a good thing.
I mean, it is what it is. And then there was another study. I just saw the headline and I meant to read it, but I got into trying to fix this about that there's like definitive proof that we're living in a simulation kind of a thing.
Right. Nice. So, yeah. I agree with both of those things.
Well, I thought it's a funny thing because I heard in the past someone say the best evidence that we are living in a simulation is that we haven't been visited or like dealt with aliens at all that people know, because if anybody was advanced, they would have reached out or done whatever, and that points to the fact that they're probably so advanced that they made us in a simulation.
Yeah. So here's an interesting thing. And I mean, we've talked about some of my crazy beliefs and my path to get here in much older episodes. But real quick, I guess to kind of fill people in, like, it would have been late 90s, early 2000s when I first discovered who Graham Hancock was. And he is very much, and his popularity now is much more than it was then. If you've seen Ancient Apocalypse, he's very much a believer, and there was ancient lost civilizations. Okay, so take that however you want. And then, you know, he's been on Joe Rogan a lot, and he's definitely become more popular, especially with the Netflix. But so I've always bought into that something happened in our past that we lost knowledge. When the Spaniards came over and everyone else came over to the New World and went to South America with the Mayans and all the indigenous people there, all of those books were burned and knowledge was lost, let's just say. So where that knowledge came from, you know, we everyone can debate about it. I think it came from a past where we were not as advanced as now, but much more advanced, to where, you know, someone could build a pyramid that's perfectly northeast southwest and move these giant blocks, you know, which as like, yes, you could take 1,000 men who were slaves or they got paid really well and move blocks over. Okay, that's the first level. What about levels 2 through, you know, however high it goes? So that's just real quick. But I was introduced to a guy, you can find him on YouTube, a Bashar. And I kept on thinking of Bashir because of your friend.
Yes.
And like I kept saying that. I'm like, nope, it's Bashar. So this is a gentleman who channels this entity. Okay. And some of the things I really like about it is the entity refers to, and I made the comment, let me back up one step. I made the comment where he asked if people had souls. And, you know, people said yes. And he's like, wrong. You are a soul. You're a soul experiencing this humanness that we're all experiencing. And I've heard that before, and that's something that I've bought into. Dr. Wayne Dyer says that, you know, talks about, you know, have a soul having a human experience, basically. So he says a lot of things that I really buy into, and Bashar is supposedly an alien entity who is much more advanced than us, and he speaks through Darryl Anka, and who is the channel. So, some of the things that I really like is that he doesn't poo-poo anything. Like, whether you are, you know, as far as religion is concerned, if you're atheist or you have something you believe or whatever, or you want to dance around outside under the sun and whatever you believe, like, he says it's all good. It's all a permission slip that you give yourself to do it. None of it's necessary, he says, but he doesn't poo-poo it because you don't know the path that someone is on. And you and I have talked about this.
Yes.
We don't know. We refer to it as God. Okay, that like being in the, like, created everything and the path, and maybe we have something that we're supposed to do in this life. He says that you decided this, your soul decided what you were going to experience, and that's what you're experiencing now. And some things you have to learn from, because you have that experience multiple times, and some things you go through and you learn it and you move on. So some people are here to just do whatever they do, work their job, be happy, not worry about anything, and then that's it. That's what their soul wanted to experience at this time. But he also talks about which if you think of string theory, many universes. So there's many different worlds and universes that we're all part of, and depending on what happens, he says we're slipping back and forth in between these different ones. So as a collective human experience, the more positiveness that's happening, there are worlds where you're going to that are more positive, and then there are worlds that are more negative. And so, different things have happened in the past, and I think he's super interesting. Our friend Jason told me about him. I know that he's listened to a bit of stuff, but yeah, that's Alien. I'll let you speak up now because I've been talking for a little bit.
I can't decide if that was a plug for him or that if it was framing like your ideas.
A little bit of both. I would say if you see something on like that he has talked about, it's worth a listen to. He's been doing, like, I guess Darryl has been channeling him like 40 years. So at first, obviously, like much smaller and like smaller groups and things like that. And now like much bigger groups and people are paying him to come out and do places. But Darryl Anka, as his professional training, works on movies. And it's what I think a couple of the Avengers and some of the Marvel stuff, like he's done work on those movies. So he's, I guess you could say in his life, he's taking some of these things that Bashar is teaching, and where the big things are like positive thinking, like move towards your goals, work in excitement, whatever excites you, follow that path. That's a path you're supposed to be on. If you hate something, like don't keep on doing that, because that's not like your frequency isn't connected to these things. When you're happy and in excitement, like you tend to, that's the path that you had set up in the past of what you wanted to experience.
I have so much to say.
Go ahead.
I have so many thoughts, and some of it is stuff that I've teased before that I'm like, ooh, I want to talk about this. And so maybe today we'll talk about some of the things from the past that I've mentioned. But throughout all of your talking, and I'm wondering like if he's talked about this or you've done it, but it really feels to me, I'm going to put this the wrong way, but it's the feeling that I'm trying to convey. So I'm trying to convey a feeling here. The statement is incorrect, but it'll portray the feeling. These are like white girl problems.
White girl problem.
Yeah, have you heard people say that when people are like, oh my gosh, Starbucks changed my creamer. Oh, the world's going to end. And people are like, oh, that's a white girl problem. Like, oh, must be nice to be rich and get your Starbucks. So my thought is, okay, like, I totally see how this applies to Americans, middle class, whatever they are. How does this apply for the 100,000 years of people eating shit? Like, so those souls weren't going through that over and over and over and over again because they wanted to experience that so many times.
Why not?
Why wouldn't they still be doing it?
That I would say, so let me take one step back to say something. So people have asked, how do you know this just isn't something inside your brain coming through, sounding different, saying this different stuff? Sure. And he says it very well could be.
For sure.
And the things that he's teaching are, to me, what the great teachers of the past have all been teaching.
Yes.
So that's one thing that I like. yeah, so why wouldn't the soul want to just okay? So
well, here you can even frame it a different way, right? You could say, okay, if they're just doing this, and this gets to kind of what you and I talked about a couple Thursdays ago. Even if you take it from that point and say, okay, that's not it, then you would have to look at either a fragmentation of souls or a multiplication of souls, because the populations then were so minuscule compared to now.
Well, personally, if someone were to hold a gun to my head and say, you have to say, are we all one soul and we're all different aspects? Or are there all these different souls and then all the different souls are all connected? I would lean towards we're all one soul and we're all trying to experience different things. Although each aspect of it, I don't know what you did last night. I don't know what you experienced yesterday. I know what you experienced when we're together, but that's just part of, the to me, what is called the greater consciousness is a thing, not many things together.
And if you I would listening to this are thinking that what he is saying is stupid and full of shit, understand when you're sleeping tonight, you don't know what your foot is doing. Your foot is having its own experience, completely separate from your consciousness, and you don't know what your foot's going through till you wake your ass up. And even then,
the great part
you never know.
Yeah. One of the episodes that I just listened to, he was talking about lucid dreaming. And he talks about going through it, like, just real quick. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but find something, meditate on it, then put a mirror on it. So you're looking in the mirror, meditate on it, put you are dreaming underneath it. So you can see the mirror, you can see this, meditate on it. And then when you're spending a month doing this, and then in your dream, try to have whatever this is. I'm doing this because I'm going to make a disc. So I can hold my disc. It means a lot to me. I'm picking a disc where, like, the picture and the words on it mean something to me more. But where you have this object, and then when you're in the dream, when you're dreaming at night, we all dream, is that to try to remember, because you're spending this time with whatever your object that you pick, and then you remember you're dreaming, then you can start controlling your dream. Because I've been able to control my dreams to an extent most of my life. It's something that, I don't know if it doesn't seem that common, because some people have no thing, but the idea is really cool. So I'm like, what am I going to lose by meditating every day for the next month on a disc and doing some of these things and seeing what happens? Because he says we're dreaming right now, and that when we go to sleep, we return to our soul, like this aspect of our soul returns back to the greater, and then you make the decision, like, okay, I'm going to go back and I'm going to continue to experience this. Because he says, like, there's no past, there's no future, there's only the now. Like, all this stuff is happening, and you can move timelines and things like that. Like, it's a little more in depth. But yeah, so what you were saying about the rest, so say children of Calcutta. So why would the soul pick to live in squalor, to starve to death, to whatever all these things are? But the same thing does happen here in the United States. There are souls that come to experience that sudden infant death, die very young, very instantly. Just, horrible diseases are here in the United States where kids are going through things and they're dying at young age. So there's just all these different aspects of something you can experience.
When does he say you get your soul?
You are a soul.
When does he say you are a soul?
Oh, he says, I just heard him talk about it. I think he said the 50th day in the womb, because you get your pituitary gland.
Why would that be the thing?
I'm just telling you. I'm just remembering the best I can. You know how I am on tests.
No. That's true.
So, but it was. I think it was the 50. It was some between like 50. Let's say between 40 and 60 is the number that Bashar said is when we as a soul enter into that body that's being formed. So he's even talked about some souls want to experience being aborted. They kind of want to get a little bit of the experience, but not quite. So that aspect may pick somebody who will do, like, who they can see, like, will probably do that. And he says up to 7, the soul can decide to just leave, like 7 years old. Like, that's why, like, sometimes kids just die. I mean, it's not pleasant to think about, but he's like, the soul is like, okay, I had enough. Bye bye. So. Yeah.
He has a lot of good things. He has a lot of good things.
And I will say some of the things
can crazy. So
I was gonna say some of the things can be a little out there, and I mean, it's each person can take their own. Like, if you hear something you like, cool. If you hear something you don't like,
here's the problem.
Okay.
With all religions, right? So, like, my atheist friends, my mom used to get so sad. She's like, all of your friends are atheists. I'm like, doesn't that make the most sense? Like, that's kind of the gig. And she's like, what? I'm like, why would I want to hang around Catholics all the time? They already know what they know. I go, shouldn't you want me to be around atheists all the time? She's like, And one of the things that you've heard me say to our atheist friends, we have lots of them, is even if you don't believe in God, or even if you don't believe in Jesus, his teachings are still fundamentally correct. And there's no arguing with Jesus's teachings. Everybody agrees those are good teachings. So whether you believe Jesus is a deity or not, which for some people is sacrilege, but I think they forget that in the early church, there was an actual debate about whether Jesus was a deity or not. Right? And so St. Augustine won the debate. I think it was.
And this was the third Jesus they picked from, because the other two, they had to change the story.
Well, imagine how many Marys they went through. Amy says that all the time. Amy's like, how many no's did God get before she said yes? Because they make a big ass deal of her saying yes, which means everybody else said no. I'm like, right. Like, that must have been a weird conversation. Like, God's like, hey, I want you to have my kid. And you're like, nah.
Yeah. Like Sam Kinison, did he have an ID? He just said he was God. You were in the woods.
Right, so there's like some things, but here's the problem, and this is what this feels like, and I've not listened to the guy.
Yeah.
But it sounds similar to every other stuff that I've heard. When you take a religion or a dogma, a set of beliefs, right? And you scrutinize the belief with examples, because they weren't part of the original thing, you try to explain those beliefs using a framework that's not tied to those beliefs. And so it makes a big clusterfuck. It makes it sound batshit crazy. Right?
Yeah.
Because it's not tied.
I mean, there are some things that are out there because for one, you've got to say, okay, I am buying into that this is an alien entity speaking through somebody.
Sure.
Now I've experienced people channeling before. I've experienced someone like almost changing before my eyes, and everything about them is completely different, and telling stuff that the person standing there was no way they could know.
Sure.
So I've experienced that. So I guess I would say I'm more open to it. But yeah, you have to say, like, okay, I believe that this is an alien from another dimension whose ship right now is parked above Sedona, however many miles up. And he's speaking through here because, as he says, as a people, as humans, we are almost ready. We're getting there. Like our brain waves and our frequencies are almost ready to be ready to have aliens like talk to us, like in real life, like where we can see it. Because if you think of, did we all talk about this on the thing, or was it just Jason and I, where he's talking about, if you think about like even when we were younger, or like when War of the Worlds came out, people would freak out for aliens.
Yeah.
Now for like our kids, you hear about aliens and stuff, and it's not as big of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's even on the news, like, oh, this U.S. military person saw a Tic Tac flying through the air, and they can't explain how it worked. So that could be advanced technology from however we got it, or it could be either from another dimension or from outer space. Because there's an argument for another dimension.
Or it could be just light reflection.
Off a Tic Tac? No.
That's why they call it now unidentified phenomenon, because they've been able to recreate so many of these things using your eyes and using lenses, which I'm not discounting that the others could be there too. I'm just going like Neil deGrasse Tyson, like, is part of the group he's interviewed people who that's their job, is to recreate that stuff. And he's like, it's like using your phone. Like, you can make your phone have ghost images, like not intentionally, but by where the light hits. And it's like my students the other day, I'm like, just for funsies, I was like, hey, look at these things that aren't moving. And they're like, but they're moving. I go, I'm going to put my hand next to them on the board because I was projecting it. And they're like, how is that possible that it's not moving and I can see it moving? And because your eyes are crap and your brain is crap. It's so easy to trick brains and eyes and ears and your senses. I'm like, they're all just bad. They're all bad. I go, and the fact that you think you can trust, not you, people, think they can trust their eyes or their hearing or their smell is foolhardy at the extreme. You can't trust that.
Yeah.
Right? They're all lies all the time, because your brain wants to make sense of things.
Yeah.
It's why in the middle of the night you're like, oh my gosh, is there a person in my closet? No, your body tries to recognize faces. It's literally what it's programmed to do. So it will see a face in anything. Which, speaking of your mirror thing, I was like kind of freaking out for you. People, you can try this. I haven't studied it yet. I'm not going to do it. Because your brain tries to like see faces and recognize things like that, if you stare at a mirror for an extended period of time, it will turn into a stranger.
Really?
Because your brain is trying to identify who the person is that you're looking at. And if you look at it for long enough, it flips it so that it doesn't recognize who it is anymore. It'll F you up.
And I guess that would be perfect for lucid dreaming, because then you would be like, oh,
right? It would be messed up.
This isn't me.
Right. Well, and that's what I'm saying. Like when I'm looking at things like I remember teasing a kiddo once in my class because he wanted to argue religion with me. And we've talked about this. I don't like arguing with people. And he was trying to argue with me. And I'm like, buddy, I go, you're super smart. He's a super smart kid. As an adult, he's crazy smart, right? But I'm like, buddy, you don't have the knowledge yet. You don't have the ability to carry on a meaningful conversation. And he's like, how can you say that? I go, name as many dimensions as you can name. And he's like, well, there's 4. I go, okay, so we're starting off that you don't even know your dimensions. I go, let's start with this. I go, beyond dimensions, I'm like, how many states of matter are there? I go, that's an easy one. And he's like, 3? Oh, I mean 4? I'm like, no. I go, there's more states of matter. Like, you just don't have knowledge. Like, and you're trying to think of things, which is great. Like, that's how you exercise your brain. I go, but you don't get to argue with someone who has that much more knowledge than you, because I'm not going to try to convince you, because I want you to experience that growth.
Yeah.
That's not my job to change you and build a carbon copy of, say, me, right? But I remember once he's like, well, come on, let's argue about Noah's Ark. And I'm like, seriously? Like, really? And he's like, please just argue with me. And I'm like, I go, okay. I go, besides the obvious wrongness of Noah's Ark story, I go, what we already factually and literally know, I go, you're in really, really high math, aren't you? And he's like, yeah. I go, do the math. I go, in your story of Noah, is all the earth covered by water? And he's like, yes. And I go, and it took 40 days and nights for enough of the water to evaporate that the tallest mountain became visible. And he's like, yes. I go, so extrapolate that. How deep is the water? I go, now, remember the volume of a sphere. We're just going to assume it's a sphere shape. Earth is 4/3 pi r cubed. So you just jumped the area to cubed. I go, and this is going to cause 2 or 3 things to happen. I go, we're not going to get into any of it. I go, there's so many things wrong. I go, my question for you is, where did the water go? And he's like, what do you mean? I go, that's more water when you do the calculation than is in our solar system. I go, it's not even hard math. And he's like, and a day later he goes, it went into the abyss.
Oh, yeah, that's a good answer.
I'm like, there you go. It went into the abyss. I go, what's the abyss? And he's like, well, the ground opened up, went in the abyss. He goes, I assume it's like hell or something. I'm like, oh, great. So, like, that's where... I go, convenient answer. I go, where did all the water come from? Well, God just made it as it was falling. And that's my point, is that when you question somebody's logic, their beliefs are so powerful that they will make an explanation that is foolhardy. Not that it couldn't be possible. It could have switched dimensions. The water could have gone in another dimension.
Absolutely.
The water could have come from another dimension. I don't know, right? But it doesn't make a lot of sense that that's what happened, especially since we've never seen it happen in that time since. Oh my gosh, I love your thumbs up. That is so great.
I don't know where that came from.
Well, either way, it was magical. It was magical.
Yeah, that was awesome. So it's so funny that you said that, and just what you were talking about. Bashar talks about that as far as, because sometimes there's question and answers where someone might be like, oh, I really want to be a channel, or I really want to do this or do that. Like, okay, like, this is possible. People do these things, but you need to make sure that you're ready in your belief system to be able to do that. Like, if you have a belief system where that's going to be super fringe or that's not really possible, you're going to have even though you're saying, I want this to happen, if your belief system isn't there with yourself, with your ego, with all of that, then it's not going to happen.
Right.
And he talks about like missing appointments. Like, if you're supposed to have an appointment with an entity someplace, whatever, the biggest way to miss that appointment is to worry about missing the appointment. Like, live your life. Like, if you're supposed to meet with this entity, you're going to meet with the entity. Like, just do it. So it's just funny, 2 things like you're talking about, where his belief system is that all this stuff happened, and then he's coming up with these, and yes, it's possible. Like, I believe, and because the first few times I heard about string theory, I was like, well, that makes perfect sense. Like, why wouldn't there be multiples of me doing different things whether it's major happenings or minor happenings, and where there's all these different worlds and all these different things have happened. Like, it just, like, why not? Because think about, so it's infinitely finite, okay? What is a term that he uses. So if you think about from, say, 0 to 1 or 1 to 2, or however you want to think about it, and then how many points do you have in between those 2 things? And you can have infinity decimal points, so it's infinite.
Yes.
I thought it was cool when I first.
No, I've heard. Well, obviously, I'm a math person, so I've heard that multiple times. Yeah. So, listeners, if you hadn't, that's like a thing. So, we are getting near the end of our time. We're going to have to unpack this so much because we didn't even get into the stuff that I've been teasing for like 3 weeks. 3 weeks, we still haven't gotten to it.
Yeah, I did too much jibber jabber and I got excited.
Oh my gosh, I loved it. It was so great, and I loved your like whole thought process on it. And I think we can like get into some pretty big details on this. Listeners, if you've got things to add, questions, if you want us to like interview the guy. I don't know. Get on our Discord, get on our Twitter, leave comments on YouTube or Spotify. Let us know, right? Let us know what your feels are, right? Mm-hmm. But otherwise, we're hitting the 45-minute mark. We don't have an automatic shut off anymore. So.
I was concerned that this was going to be a 2-hour episode.
I was kind of paying attention. So anyway, people, we love you. Have a great week. And this is Ballbuster signing off.
Kilted Dragon Jerry, love you all.